Now that's a parking spot.
Introducing the I may have underestimated the size of my car policy with accident forgiveness from American Family Insurance. Insure carefully. Dream fearlessly. Get a quote. Find an agent. Visit amfam.com.
Optional policy features not included in base policies. Review policy for coverages and exclusions. American Family Mutual Insurance Company SI and its operating company 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin.
Welcome to Audio Gyan with Kedar Nimkar, a podcast that documents insightful conversations with Indian designers, artists, musicians, writers, thinkers, and creatives of all types. Catch us on iTunes or visit audiogyan.com for more Gyan sessions. Here's your host, Kedar Nimkar.
जैसे भैरव, ये सुबह का राग है। पवित्र स्थानों पर सुबह की पवित्रता अगर आपके मन को सुकून पहुंचा सकी, तो भैरव क्या कहना चाहता है, ये शायद ही आप समझ पाओगे। सारंग राग। सारंग राग गाने से पहले दोपहर करीब 2 बजे की तपती धूप में किसी गांव के खेड़े में गोबर से सींची हुई आंगन में कभी बैठे हो? अगर हां, तो ही शायद सारंग की रूह तक पहुंचना संभव है। भीम पलाश का अर्थ है पलाश वृक्ष के विशाल पत्ते। बसंत की दोपहर में 3:30-4 के दरमियान कभी इस वृक्ष के साये में खड़े रहे हो? तभी विशाल वृक्ष और उसी तरह विशाल भीम पलाश क्या कह रहा है, ये समझ पाओगे। And many more such references are given by the legendary Pandit Kumar Gandharva. The reason why I was saying this all because our today's guest has made an app which serves specific music tracks based on their prahar, also called as timing. And by the way, the above piece was originally written in Marathi and translated by a very close friend called Rashmi Patwardhan in Hindi. Well, what does this mean in a nutshell is that every rag has a specific time and you need more than just a clock to experience the emotion and the mood that this rag or any rag evokes. Today I have Aditya Dipankar with us on Audio Gyan. He's a designer and also a trained Hindustani classical musician. Aditya has a huge body of work in design, from infographics for rural India to creating designs for successful brands like Nutanix and Freecharge. Today we are here to discuss a case study of his project Ragya.com. Ragya is a streaming service focusing just on Indian classical music, specifically ragas designed to be played at specific times of day. And that's why I started with this Kumar Gandharva's quote. So thank you, Aditya, for giving your time, and it's a real pleasure to have you on Audio Gyan.
The pleasure is mine, all mine, Kedar, and that was a beautiful introduction.
Thank you. And the whole premise, as I given a context, is that I wanted to document this case study of Ragya.com. So we'll straight away jump into the conversation and wanted to understand, like, what is Ragya? What is this platform? If you can just give more context to it.
Sure. Well, so Ragya actually started 5 years ago, and it really was a very personal project in the sense that I used to enjoy listening to rag music, and after listening to it since a while, I started to think in terms of time of the day. So I used to think that, okay, it's afternoon, what rags can I listen to? So I used to do a Google search, find out some rag names, do a YouTube search for those rag names. Then I used to get results in the form of instruments, artists, and there is a host of choices you have. And more often than not, I, much like most other people who enjoy this music, I would get lost, or I would, end up choosing the very familiar names. And so I felt that, hey, isn't there a platform out there which can do this curation for me? So I searched, and by the way, this is 2014 I'm talking about. So I searched and I found none. And that's when, with the help of friends back then, we, in a day's time, we put together a YouTube-based database, or rather a database of YouTube videos, which we were streaming, across the day. We were basically curating songs based on the time of the day, 8 time sections of the day, the 8 prahar. And it was just a very small number of videos. In fact, at that point, we had invited the public also to contribute videos. It became the idea, idea struck a chord with many people. And although it was a hobby project, small project, single page site, really just a single page site, people loved it. The simplicity of it, people didn't have to think anymore. So, I did not popularize it at that time in the sense that I did not share it a lot, but it spread. It still spread. My friends were listening to it. And for about 4 years, I used to keep hearing from my friends that I'm listening to Ragya, I'm enjoying it so much. Please add more music. Please add this music. The entries, the submissions from friends kept coming in. So it kept growing gently, but it did keep growing. And so it continued. And last year, that's 2018, around November, I, along with my friend Samyukta, we discussed that, hey, we should revive this, in the sense that it was really dormant, as in it was still a YouTube-based project. It hadn't grown much from there. But I started to think about how this can take, it can go, basically I wanted it to go into its next stage, into it becoming a real streaming service. Now, the problem with YouTube videos was that often either YouTube videos are deleted or they cannot be streamed on other websites. For example, Saregama won't allow their videos to be streamed outside of YouTube because they've licensed it to YouTube. So multiple problems. Of course, content being limited was another one, and many other issues with that.
Yeah, and in fact, if it's most heard, then there's a lot of ads also.
That too.
Yeah.
And so I thought that let's make it a proper audio streaming service, and let's set up a minimum viable product. And this we set up based on music from the Internet Archive, which you have. Music on Internet Archive, you can use it for non-commercial purposes. You can stream it freely. And luckily, we found music from some great artists. We found music from Satyashil Deshpande, Ashwini Bhede Deshpande, and many other artists. Luckily, there was a bunch of music there. And we uploaded, again, not many tracks. To share an exact number with you, it was between 100 and 150 tracks only. Put it out there. We, in fact, launched exactly on the 24th of March. That was Holi last year, 2019. And it kind of went viral. Actually, I shouldn't say it kind of. It actually went viral. People started to share it. So we put out one tweet, put out one Facebook post, and there were many retweets to it, many shares, many celebrities shared it. So I'm mentioning that also because of those shares also it went viral all the more. And it became, the idea was very well taken by public. We received so many messages on Twitter, email. So we had this email ID, which was a simple Gmail ID back then, ragyamusic@gmail.com. Many people wrote in saying that, and in fact, amongst other emails, one of the emails read that I was never a classical music listener. Somehow Ragya changed it. Yes, other emails were like, "Thank you, Ragya is a blessing," and people were sharing it on WhatsApp, and it was a simple progressive web application. So in the sense that you could share it, you could save it on your mobile app screen as well. So it would open in a, it would open almost as an app. And so the idea was very well received. It received a lot of encouragement. In fact, a couple of professional investors also wrote in saying that they are happy to support this idea, happy to put in funds to grow it. They see a lot of. One of them said that what they see is a glimpse, and yes, in fact, we will come to it, I guess, later in this conversation. But so there was a lot of encouragement. Apart from that, we had also put a donation link at the bottom of the page back then. This was an InstaMojo link, and it of course we weren't registered not for profit, so InstaMojo took down our link for obvious reasons. But even in that window of some 2-3 days, we received, somebody sent in 1,000 rupees, somebody sent in 500, 150. People wrote in saying that the link is not working. How do I support this project? So that happened. Now, I'm just going on about how this grew also. So
actually, before that, I would like to just tell the listeners also that even I had, like, someone had shared it with me. I saw it. It was like really beautiful. And the MVP in a true sense, because it was as simple as when you open the link, the music starts playing. So there was no really any friction or like a learning curve for this to listen. So I wanted to understand that bit also. But yeah, just continue with what you were saying.
Sure. Yeah, and so because this collection of music was limited, because Internet Archive will have only so many free songs, and
Correct.
even some of those have issues with them, in the sense that an artist has sung a song at one place and somebody has recorded it, and that somebody has uploaded it on the Internet Archive. Now the artist does not know about it. Sometimes it happens.
Correct.
So, and you, as an innocent streaming service, we might end up offending that artist. So all those risks still stayed. That is one. Two is that people started to say that this is great, but the playlist is now repeating. And that is when we started to think that we need to really make it a possibly infinitely expanding catalog of music.
Correct.
And that's how Ragya has grown from there.
Correct. But and if I have to take a step back and understand, you mentioned about YouTube, and that's where your hypothesis of something like this will work. But even before that, it was again meant for your own personal pain point, or did you like do like a user testing kind of a thing, which we do traditionally while starting off with like a MVP? So was there any insight there? Because this is like a niche subject, right? It's a niche audience, again, especially in the online context. So like, how did you, apart from personal experience, how did you validate the need for such a product?
So when we launched in March last year, it was not tested per se. The launch itself, this MVP itself, the single screen app was a test, in a sense. We wanted to test the waters with it. And that it went viral, that it received so much of positive response and blessings and love, was a validation for us to take it into this next stage. But actually, that was not the only validation for it. We took this idea to artists as well, in fact. So I wrote in to many artists. I called up artists. One of my dear friends now, Pushkar Lele, who also happens to be my Guru Bhai, he connected me with so many artists in his network. And all of these artists, they also brought their support on the platform. So in the sense of that, they brought their content on Ragya. And that was also a validation. That is also a validation for this. There was no such service which would stream Indian classical music, currently only Hindustani classical, to listeners. And that would, so you have other players in this market, but they are streaming their catalogs. There is no objective, for the lack of a better expression, service which is catalog agnostic, which is source agnostic. This is that service that it will accept music from any source, and anybody can bring, any artist of rigor can bring their music on Ragya and stream it to the world.
Wow. I'll come to this artist bit in the second half. If we deep dive further into the main structure of the app, it plays at a specific, so you open in afternoon and maybe something like a Beam Palace is playing, or I don't know whether Durga is definitely Sarang or afternoon rags. So that gets played directly. So Can you share any insights about the algorithm? Because you have some musical ear, you could do it, or how did that entire thing work, or how does it work currently behind the scenes,
Mhm.
especially with the algorithm? Yeah.
Sure. Well, so uh, this knowledge is available with fairly easily about the association of rags with the time of the day. So there are rags which are quintessentially evening rags or morning rags or even pre-dawn rags.
Hmm.
This knowledge is fairly easily accessible. I would like to actually mention my one of my experiences, one of the conversations that I had with my Guruji,
Hmm.
in which I think which was kind of the seed of this idea in some sense.
Hmm.
So I was in
Sorry,
Pune. Yeah,
sorry to interrupt. May I know the Guruji's name, please?
yes. So his name is Pandit Vijay Sar Deshmukh,
Okay.
and yeah, he yeah he, I have no words to describe him because he's been an amazing influence, I think, in my life. Not amazing influence, he's been a deep influence. He's had a deep
Hmm.
influence in my life, and unfortunately he's not with us anymore. But the time that I spent with him was just I mean, it was really a very blissful time. I used to go with him on walks, actually. So I used to be in Pune for a year, and by the way, I did not have a lot of training under him, or I wasn't with him for a long time. But the time that I got with him, I was fortunate to have taken him for walks to Vetal Tekdi in Pune. And on
Wow.
these walks, he used to tell me the most beautiful, the simplest nuggets of wisdom or thought provoking uh, ideas. Um,
Hmm.
and at one time, he told me on one of these walks, uh, he told me that these rags that we hear that are there, the best of the rags, for the lack of a better expression, the best of the rags are ones which are heard by a keen listener. You don't create a rag. The rag
Hmm.
is there in nature. Those notes can be heard. The evening notes can be heard in the evening, or the evening rag notes can be heard by a keen listener. They can be felt, felt or heard in the way you want to look at it.
Correct, correct.
And
I can completely connect the dots here. Where this is all stemming from is Vijay Sar Deshmukh, Kumar Gandharva's disciple.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, and let me tell the listeners, this was not timed at all. I just happened to uh, follow some bit of music, and I thought Kumar Gandharva has spoken a lot about timing and rag vyavastha,
Mm.
and wow, super brilliant. Like, it's a very nice moment for me to connect these dots. Yeah, sorry, continue.
Sure, yeah. So yeah, that so Guruji was someone who would speak very little, and when he would say anything, it would be very loaded. It would be very meaty. And so this is one thing that he told me once, that it is, and so he said this about songs also, or a rendition also, which is that the best renditions are those which appear through you. You write them, you not by too much of intellectual engagement with something, but you're expressing very honestly or very spontaneously, actually, sehajta. So
Hmm.
these are some things that when he when I was with him on those walks, they have stayed with me, and they are timeless. These nuggets of wisdom, they are just beautiful and timeless. And I really think that Ragya is also the way it is now today, the form that it has taken, that it is in today, is, I will really say that I will attribute it to him a lot because of his simplicity. This simplicity of launching and playing, that I think is it. I mean, it's because of time spent with him. I will really say that.
Wow. Cool. Uh, yeah, it has taken a different note altogether. But yeah, coming to the algorithm bit and
Mm.
understanding. So yeah, you said this information is freely available, easily accessible online, and also with your association with different musicians. But how did that put together, like any particular instance that, or any engineering aspect you can share?
Sure. Well, so we have in terms of uh, the technical side of Ragya is there are we have databases of we have a database of songs, we have a database of rags, and we have a database of artists. These are the three central databases. Now, the database of rags is, of course, there's a lot of detail in it about all the nuances, but also one detail is the time of the day or the times of the day in which that rag is best experienced in, heard in.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the front end, based on what time, wherever you are in this world, wherever you are, the system time is, it is seen by Ragya, and you are served content based on that. It's as simple as that, actually.
Correct. No, but this database of rags, is it manually entered? Because I was under the impression that you have some sort, like that there are these um, cool little uh, cool little apps which identify what tal is it playing based on, because tal is pretty simple for like a Bollywood music, or understand where the vocals are coming from. So there's some sort of a machine learning there. Are you, like, have you dealt anything like that with this? Because it's too complex, right? अभी like whatever हंसध्वनि में म और ध नहीं है, तो it's tough for like an algorithm to understand that, right?
Yeah.
So right now it's manually handled.
Fully manual. It's been done by teammates who have sat row by row and made sure that whatever information is there, and I think we have information entered for 90% of the rags that we have there, 90 to 95%, not 100%. Some rags, some information is not there. We are in the process of improving that, but each bit has been entered by humans, and in fact, a translation is also on the cards. Very soon, we'll have a Hindi version, a Marathi version, maybe not anytime soon, but the Hindi version will also have the whole sort of Hindi version of this database too. So it's been fully manually managed. All the entire database.
Correct. And then serving the relevant rag as per the time is just one axis. Do you have any more access to make it more personalized, or if anything is work in progress, or how are you planning to make it much more contextual?
Yes, totally on the cards. In fact, as we are speaking, the UI is 99% finalized. I'm saying 99% because in the last about 4 months, we've tested the UI, the new UI, and I will just speak about it in a very short bit. We have tested it quite a few times. In fact, in the last 5 days or so, we have tested it again with quite a few users of Ragya, existing users, and now we are at a point where we know exactly which features we want to launch in the very next version of Ragya. We are calling it Ragya 3.0. What we are using is 2.0. So, and the story behind 3.0 is really, it's being driven by the community. The listeners, the people of the community members, they have written to us, they have expressed their need to get more power into to get more power of browsing, searching, finding, and selection. Right now, you can't do much. You will be served, you sit back and listen, and well, you can skip to the next one or go back if you may wish to, but you can't do much beyond that. Listeners have written to us saying that, hey, I want to search for an artist, I want to go to a specific artist, listen to his or her music, I want to listen to a certain instrument, a rag, and so on and so forth. So we've heard them, and we in fact we had a big bucket list of this is all that can be done. But in the last few days, in fact, this is something I have worked very closely with closely on with my teammates Guru Dhamal and Rajesh Bhatt, and of course Samyukta also. We have now reached a point where we know, okay, this is a simple form for Ragya 3.0, and we'll be putting it into development anytime soon now. Actually, I hope by end of this week we will be putting it into development.
Wow, that's great. That's great. Okay, and so moving on to the next and changing gears a bit, I wanted to understand, which you briefly spoke about, how do artists come on board? Is there any curation process, and what's the overall protocol of like feeding in more content?
Well, so there are two to three things over here. One is, well, now, as you know, there are subscribers who pay for this service, and this is now, so Ragya 1.0, which was a free to stream, free to listen service based on Internet Archive, was free music. There was nobody paying for it, and so it had its issues. In order to grow it, we realized we have to grow it with the community. If we open it to the community to so there are 2-3 points over here. One is, there are the artists, there are the listeners, and there is the platform itself. Now, we wanted to make it fully self-sustaining. Really, that is our goal. To be very honest, this is a, I mean, for many reasons, including that it's a niche service. It's a new kind of a service. I mean, there has never been a Indian classical music focused service. So it's taking time to become accepted as something that people can pay for. And by the way, people pay, but it's still taking time in the larger community for people to say that, okay, you know what, really, we can all pay for this. I mean, somebody can think of paying for a Spotify because they know that there are millions of songs, or a iTunes or whatever. But this is something that's totally new. Now, so to make it self-sustaining, we had to get in content from the artists, to get in funding from the listeners, and which will not just get the platform to become viable to run based on that money. I mean, we have to spend on the cloud. Mainly, that is one big recurring expenditure. Apart from the development, of course, those are costs as well, and other costs. But we also want the artists to benefit from this. I mean, the artists have a share in what the platform is earning. And so now this business model is what has made Ragya self-sustaining. And there are some lessons that we learned in this journey as well, and maybe I can touch on them a bit. So this is the journey which has taken us into 2.0. We created a simple revenue sharing model for artists to basically have a share in what Ragya is earning from subscribers. And by the way, this is infinitely expanding, although it is infinitely expanding. But speaking of curation, there is now effectively a network of artists. So, of course, the first few artists were from the limited network that I had. But in turn, these artists have connected Ragya with more artists. And by the way, not just artists, but also organizations. We have been supported, I will say. And I should mention that, in fact, one of the partners, content partners for Ragya is Sonic Octaves, and they have been so open-hearted. And without such support, we would be, I don't know how we would manage. I mean, Ragya hasn't made the kind of profit that one would expect from an online business. It's slow. It's steady, but it's slow. And yet we have support from all the artists, including organizations such as Sonic Octave. So basically, effectively, what I'm saying is that there is that support which has come in from these quote-unquote content partners in the form of artists and organizations. They, in turn, get a share in the revenue that Ragya earns. And so that's revenue sharing. That's the business model. The curation is network based. So mostly if an artist says that, hey, you should get his or her music online, then no questions asked. I mean, all we do is we just listen to the music once. We, of course, also listen to the quality of the recordings that they have to provide us. That is also the second point. I mean, the first point is, of course, the rigor of the artist, the reputation also, if I have to put it that way, but also the quality of the audio, because yes, of course, we want to stream high quality content. So we try to get wave files. That is our first concern, that can we get high quality audio, because in the future we want to stream wave as well. Of course, right now we are not doing it, but we want to get high quality audio, and yeah, so that takes that covers, I guess, curation as well as the content quality.
Correct. And then how are copyrights handled? I mean, licenses,
Right.
because this is I'm going to like connect with you offline for like my Guruji, as in like I'm not like not training under him, but like yeah, for a brief span he was like teaching me flute, and if I want his work, so now he plays right like anything, right from whatever his guru has taught him to all sorts of bandishes which are already there, and plus there's no strong system of copyright in
Yes.
Hindustani classical music as well. So how is that handled in this?
So every piece of music that you will hear on Ragya is licensed to Ragya. I mean, either by an artist or by an organization. It is licensed with a formal contract, and the understanding is very clearly stated in this contract that they will Ragya will share a part of the revenue with them. So every piece, it's contract based. There is that formal agreement between every party who has
Correct.
whose
No,
music
what
you
I
will
want to no, what I wanted to understand was that, say, like an artist is playing like a famous bandish by say Begum Akhtar.
get.
Now, there's no track record of how many times Jamuna Kinare Mere Gaon has been performed by so many artists.
Mhm.
So, how does that work? Because like Mukul Shuputra, Jamuna Kinare, if it's streaming, like what is happening between you, as in Ragya and then Mukul Shuputra?
One of my favorites, actually. Uh, um, I mean, both Mukulji and Jamuna Kinare Moragaon.
Correct.
So, well, what you are talking about is a paramparik bandish,
Hmm.
and many artists, they sing paramparik bandishes, and as I understand it, uh, and as I have gathered, there is no copyright issue when it comes to paramparik bandishes, in the sense
Hmm.
that as an artist I can sing a paramparik bandish and then I own it, you know?
Wow.
So that's what I know, that's what I have gathered, and I haven't heard or learnt of any other any reservations against this. So yeah, I think that's, in that sense, it is okay that
Hmm.
there are so many Jamuna Kinare Moragaon, and and they are all theirs. I mean, they're all that artists who
Correct.
has sung it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus, definitely, and your question has. I mean, I completely understand. So, from a covers point of view, in the Western world, where
Hmm.
you would have a cover, then yeah, you are not the owner per se. I guess I'm not entirely sure, but yeah.
Hmm. Correct. Wow, it's been like really fascinating to know so much, and like yeah, um, I would like to conclude with actually one last a couple of last questions, which I don't want to ask for this pure form of conversation which we are having, but just to be comprehensive in the overall approach. At what point in time did you realize that there is a commercial angle to it? And because it is very tough, especially with AudioGAN for this project I've been doing for 3.5 years. I don't know overall podcast how they are performing, how the trajectory of a podcaster goes, but and same must have happened with you guys, uh, uh, like starting off like a passion project, but now it's making commercial sense.
Yeah.
So if you can share any insights there which could possibly be helpful for people who are passionate about these side gigs.
Well, so to be uh, to be honest, it's currently making just enough for itself, this platform, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
the earnings are only enough to sustain the cloud as of right now. Okay, but
Mm-hmm.
that's also quite good at this point. There is
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, the platform can keep running. It does not need us. It's almost like that Ragya had to appear through us. I feel like that, you know, we are just really a channel, this team that is working on it.
Mm.
So at what point? Well, when listeners or when folks who heard about Ragya, when they supported it, when they started to ask for more content, and when it stuck us that um, we there is a whole, like, there are thousands of artists out there who are currently using either Facebook or YouTube, or I don't know what other platform. I mean, a Spotify or an iTunes, you don't see Hindustani classical music featured there ever almost. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Apart from
the
Ravi Shankar and Zakir
exactly,
Hussain. Yeah.
exactly. So where does someone, and this is, by the way, this is a huge universe. I think there is so much of beautiful classical Indian classical music out there, which is undiscovered. And I'll tell you, I have been amazed at what I have discovered through Ragya, the talent, the beauty. It's I If it was not for Ragya, I would have not heard someone like a Rajrupa Sen, who shuttles between Bangladesh and Kolkata, I think. And
Mm-hmm.
if you listen to her sarod, you know, or Pandit Sanjay Bandyopadhyay, whose sitar and his Anil Madhyam, which is a rag which was created by him. And if you, I'll make you listen to it. I'll send it to you. It
Mm-hmm.
is and his disciples and many other musicians who will never appear in your search on Google or on YouTube or Spotify. You would never think of them. And so all of these factors, they came together. So I mean, I also mentioned these examples because when Ragya was in its 1.0 form, one day it was playing and I was working, and then, you know, this sarod started playing. Okay, and it had some quality to it. Okay, it had just this very I don't know. I mean, I know, but it was very difficult to describe for some time, and till some incident that happened, and I can also talk about that a bit. But I opened Ragya's tab. It was only a browser-based app back then. I opened it and I realized that, oh, Rajrupa Sen's Bihag is playing, and that's when I decided that, hey, I have to get in touch with her, and I have to get her to bring her music. And so I started to look for her, and then I found, eventually, I mean, I could not find her. I could just find a PDF of her profile somewhere, and I could not find her at all. And then eventually I found out that, hey, she's a disciple of Pandit Sanjay Bandyopadhyay. So I wrote to him, and of course, I heard his music as well through her. And then I realized that, wow, I would have never heard this. And
Mm-hmm.
then I wrote to him and I asked him to bring his music on Ragya, and also get and request his disciples also to get their music. So Pandit Kushal Das, his grand disciple, Kalyanjit Das, and Rajrupa, Panchajanya, their music is on Ragya. It's just so beautiful, their music. And um, yeah, there is one very beautiful, and I had multiple conversations with Sanjay ji. One of them is beautiful. It's about Mozart has said this thing, that music is not about the notes, but about the space in between them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Beautiful.
yeah, this is written on Panchajanya's website. And I wrote to Sanjay ji that, Sanjay ji, when I heard Rajrupa's music for the first time, there was something in it which I could not place my finger on, but it was something. It was a quality which it you know it just caught my ear, and it was so compelling that I had to go out looking for her. I had to find her out. I wrote emails to dummy email IDs. I mean, not dummy email IDs, but just, random email IDs, trying to get in touch with her. And I wrote to him saying that, this quality that I found in her music, I found it summed up in this quote which is written on Panchajanya's website, that music is not in the notes but in the space between them. And then he said that, Aditya, you very rightly summed it up, and the silence or the space between the notes is one of the is something that I stress on in my training, teaching, and it opens the full grandeur of the song, music. And so, this factor of this big pool of beautiful music waiting to be discovered, then listeners wanting to have this one source where they can discover, and they are happy to pay, they are happy to fund it. And by the way, I must tell you that out of all the subscribers that Ragya has currently, 70% have committed to 1 year subscription.
Wow.
That is,
Wow.
yeah, they are happy to pay. In fact, some subscribers have told me that this fees that you are charging is less. So, and they've called me telling me that, it does not play on my Wi-Fi speaker. Can you please get this feature in? There's so many calls I've had, so many emails. So, I mean, there was only positive encouragement for it. And so, yeah, it was a very, it's also accidental in the sense that I did not ever think that it would become a commercial venture, but it's very spontaneously, very gently becoming it. There is no, we've in fact also been, we are in touch with folks who are happy to put benevolent capital in Ragya. They have very actively shown interest in that. But we are taking it slow. We are saying that, hey, this is a community which is working with a lot of love, working for the love of music, for the love of classical music. We should grow it slowly with this community. And so we are the ones who are sort of, holding our reins on it and taking it slow. But, it's really just spontaneous. There is, I can't stop it. It's almost like that.
Correct. Beautiful. Aditya, I think we can just keep having this conversation endlessly, but just given the time span we have, I want to conclude by asking you what's the long-term future of Ragya. I know your plans to go slow and steady with this, but any particular trajectory, any particular vision that you have right now in mind? Sorry, by the way, speaking about the earlier question, I wanted to add, even Kumar Gandharva spoke a lot about Avkash. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. What's the long-term vision?
Well, so I'm very excited about 3.0, the next version of Ragya. That's mainly because, as opposed to the current limited functionality, Ragya 3.0 is going to be, in a sense, a full-fledged streaming service or a platform. It will, of course, retain the simplicity of Ragya as it is today, but it will also bring in more power of browsing and searching for listeners. So basically, it'll have best of both worlds. And I'm personally, and I'm sure the rest of the team also, and I'm also sure the larger community also, is waiting for it to see how this is received. And my feeling is that this will definitely be more popular, for the lack of a better expression, than the current version of Ragya, because, again, like I said, it'll become a full-fledged app. So I'm excited about that to begin with. How the story has panned out so far for Ragya, I would really just go in that same flow. So, Kumarji used to say that, "Jo sun raha hu, wahi suna raha hu." So मैं जो सुन रहा हूँ मैं वही सुना रहा हूँ. मतलब, listeners are saying that हमें ये चाहिए, so हमने सुना, अभी हम उनको सुना देंगे उसी हिसाब से. बाकी आगे जैसे जैसे बढ़ेगा वो gently बढ़ेगा. It has a life of its own, and I don't know really. If you ask me, I will be honest and say that I really don't know how it will pan out, but it will. It has gotten support from the community, love from the community, and it will continue to have that, and it will continue to grow with that. Is really all I want to say at this point.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, I think this is like a good note to end. All the best for your version 3.0. And if people have to follow you, your work, Ragya, what is the best way? Obviously, ragya.com. And you guys are on Instagram.
Yes. So
Okay.
we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and on all of these platforms, the handle to follow is Ragya Music.
Wow, okay. That's pretty simple. Sounds like a designer, like being consistent.
Totally important.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Aditya. It was really wonderful talking to you. Got to learn a lot, and wish you all the best with your project and future endeavors as well. Thanks a lot for giving your time.
Thank you so much to you too, Kedar. It was really a pleasure talking to you too.
Thank you. Thank you. That's it.
And that's it from today's Gyan session. Catch us on iTunes, Saavn, Stitcher, or any podcasting app you use. Do rate us on iTunes and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Stay tuned for more Gyan on audiogyan.com. Till then, bye.
Now that's a parking spot.
Introducing the I may have underestimated the size of my car policy with accident forgiveness from American Family Insurance. Insure carefully. Dream fearlessly. Get a quote. Find an agent. Visit amfam.com.
Optional policy features not included in base policies. Review policy for coverages and exclusions. American Family Mutual Insurance Company SI and its operating company 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin.